If saving money feels impossible right now, it's probably not because you're bad with money. Most people in 2025 are doing the same things you are. They try to budget, cut back on spending, and follow basic advice. And somehow the account still ends up close to zero. The part no one explains is that most money advice assumes stable income and extra margin. When income is inconsistent or already tight, those rules stop working. Percentages, automation, and strict budgets start creating stress instead of progress. Here's the part that surprised me. The problem usually isn't math, it's behavior. People don't fail because they don't know what to do. They fail because the system they're given doesn't match how money actually shows up in their lives. My name is Alex. In this video, I'm breaking down a simple savings rule that works when you're starting from zero. By the end, you'll see how to build savings without relying on discipline, perfect income, or complicated strategies. The reality check: why saving feels broken. Over the next year, struggling to save money will not be a personal failure. It will be the most common financial situation. Nearly half of working adults are on track to be unable to cover a $2,000 emergency with cash. Not because they are careless, but because everyday costs leave almost no margin. Rent continues to take the largest share of income. Groceries, insurance, utilities, and minimum debt payments follow right behind. By the time a paycheck arrives, most of that money already has a purpose. Even when income rises slightly, expenses tend to rise faster. So progress never feels real. Income itself is becoming less predictable. More people rely on gig work, freelance projects, commissions, or variable hours. One month feels manageable. The next one feels tight again. Traditional savings advice assumes steady income and predictable cash flow, and that assumption is increasingly outdated. When saving does not happen, people blame themselves. They assume the problem is discipline or motivation. In reality, most are using systems built for a different economy. The rules have not kept up with how money actually shows up, and that disconnect is why saving feels broken. The real enemy: why traditional money advice fails. Most money advice sounds reasonable until you try to use it in real life. Save 20%. Automate your transfers. Build a 3 to 6 month emergency fund. On paper, it all works. In practice, it often fails, especially when money is already tight. The biggest problem is that these rules assume stable income. They assume you know exactly how much you will make each month. That might have been true years ago, but it is less true now. Gig work, commissions, and variable hours make income unpredictable. Percentages break down when the number they are based on keeps changing. Automation creates another issue. When savings transfers happen automatically, they feel good at first. Then an unexpected expense hits. Gas, a subscription you forgot about, or a small emergency forces you to move that money back. Instead of feeling responsible, you feel like you failed. Emergency fund advice has the same flaw. Telling someone to save several months of expenses when they cannot save a few days' worth is discouraging. The advice is not wrong. It is simply not the first step. The real issue is not math. It is behavior and psychology. Introducing the $20 rule, the first step that actually works. This is where the approach changes. Instead of percentages or complex plans, the $20 rule starts with something simple and concrete. Every time you receive income, you set aside $20. That applies to a paycheck, a freelance payment, a side gig, or any extra money that comes in. If your income is irregular, you use a threshold. For example, every time you earn $100 or more in a day or on a project, you move $20 into savings. The amount stays the same. The trigger is what changes. That consistency matters. What makes this different is that the transfer is manual. You do not automate it. You move the money yourself each time. That small action forces awareness. You see the balance change. You feel the decision. Over time, your brain connects getting paid with saving. The rule is not about the size of the deposit. $20 will not change your life overnight. What it does is create a reliable habit at a level that does not cause stress. When saving feels manageable, it becomes repeatable. And repeatable is how progress actually starts. The mechanics: how to set it up without overthinking. Setting this up should take minutes, not weeks. The first step is opening a brand new savings account. It needs to start at zero. Do not reuse an old account that you have dipped into before. A clean start matters more than the interest rate. Name the account something meaningful, not savings or emergency. Pick a name that reminds you why this money exists. It could be something like Freedom Fund or Backup Plan. When you see that name, it should make you pause before touching the money. Do not waste time searching for the perfect bank or the highest yield. That is often just procrastination in disguise. Pick a simple, accessible account and move on. The habit is more important than optimization. Now, the key rule: do not automate the transfer. Each time you hit your income threshold, you manually move $20. Watch the balance go up. That visibility reinforces the habit. Finally, make your first deposit immediately, not later today, not next week. Move $20 now. Starting's the hardest part, and once you do it once, doing it again becomes easier. The psychology breakdown: why this works when everything else fails. The reason the $20 rule works has very little to do with money and everything to do with how the brain handles stress and habits. When finances feel overwhelming, complex rules create avoidance. Simplicity lowers resistance, which makes action more likely. First, the amount is small enough to feel safe. $20 does not trigger fear or panic, even on a tight week. That matters because habits form faster when the brain does not perceive risk. You are not forcing discipline, you are reducing friction. Second, progress is visible. Starting from zero and watching the balance climb gives your brain feedback. That sense of progress is motivating. It is the same reason step counters and progress bars work. You see that your action leads to a result. Third, the money stays accessible. It is not locked away or invested. Knowing you can reach it if something goes wrong makes the habit sustainable. You are building security, not pressure. Finally, repetition changes identity. Each manual transfer reinforces the idea that saving is something you do. Over time, that identity shift becomes more powerful than willpower, and consistency follows naturally. Why small beats smart? The behavioral advantage. When people hear about saving $20, the first reaction is usually dismissal. It sounds too small to matter. But the comparison is not $20 versus some ideal savings plan. The real comparison is $20 versus zero. Small, consistent actions outperform smart strategies that are never sustained. Saving a little every time income shows up creates momentum. That momentum matters more than the amount in the early stages. Once a habit exists, increasing the number becomes easier. Without a habit, even the best plan collapses. There is also a confidence effect. When you get used to $20 leaving your account and nothing bad happens, your fear around money decreases. You start to trust that you can handle small setbacks. That trust opens the door to saving more on better weeks without forcing it. Another overlooked benefit is decision quality. Having even a small buffer changes how you think. You are less reactive. You make choices with a clearer head. That often leads to better financial outcomes beyond saving itself. Smart systems assume stability and discipline. Small systems work in chaos. When money is unpredictable, consistency beats optimization every time. Identity shift from I can't save to I handle money. The most important change from this approach is not the balance in the account. It is the shift in how you see yourself. When money is tight for a long time, people start to believe they are bad with money. That belief quietly shapes every decision. The $20 rule interrupts that pattern. Each time you save, you create evidence that the old story is no longer true. You are not someone who cannot save. You are someone who saves consistently, even in small amounts. That difference matters. As that identity changes, behavior follows. People become less impulsive, not because they are forcing restraint, but because their choices start to align with who they believe they are. Someone who sees themselves as capable with money is more likely to plan, negotiate, and protect what they have. There is also a noticeable emotional shift. Money decisions feel calmer. Emergencies feel manageable instead of catastrophic. Stress does not disappear, but it loses control. This is how financial stability actually begins. Not with a large deposit or a perfect plan, but with a quiet identity change that compounds over time. The growth path. What comes after the $20 habit? Once the $20 habit feels automatic, the focus shifts from starting to scaling. The first goal is consistency. You are no longer proving that you can save. You already know that. Now you are reinforcing the pattern. From there, the amount can increase naturally. Some weeks it stays at 20. On better weeks, it might be 30 or 40. There is no fixed rule. The habit stays the same while the number adjusts to reality. That flexibility keeps the system sustainable. The next milestone is a small emergency buffer, around $2,000. That amount covers most minor disruptions like car repairs, phone replacements, or unexpected bills. Reaching it often reduces stress more than a raise does. After that, the traditional advice finally makes sense. Building toward 3 months of essential expenses becomes realistic once the habit and buffer exist. At that point, saving is no longer fragile. This path is slow, and that is the point. It is designed to survive real life. Progress comes from repeatable behavior, not aggressive targets. Quiet systems last longer, and lasting systems are what actually change outcomes. Key takeaways. Saving money does not fail because people lack discipline. It fails because most systems are designed for stable income and extra margin, not real life. When money is inconsistent or already stretched, complex rules create stress instead of progress. The $20 rule works because it starts where people actually are. It replaces percentages with a fixed action, removes pressure, and focuses on habit before scale. Small, repeatable behavior builds confidence, and confidence changes decisions. Manual saving matters. Seeing the balance grow reinforces the habit and strengthens the connection between income and saving. Accessibility matters too. Knowing the money is there if needed makes the system sustainable rather than fragile. Most importantly, saving is an identity shift, not a math problem. Moving from "I cannot save" to "I handle money" changes how people think, choose, and respond to setbacks. Progress does not begin with a large amount. It begins with consistency. Start small, repeat it, and let the system grow with you instead of working against you.